So I'm called to address your thirst for numbers and data. But let me start with a first and finish with a slide where actually no data, no numbers are presented. So the first concept that I would like to reiterate, and Ranil has said it already, is that in 10 to 15 years, I will probably have grandchildren and I will have angina, unfortunately, probably. I'm not sure in what order, temporally, and in what intensity, either of them. But my treating cardiologist in his good intentions will be interested into measuring the outcomes of his treatment. Of course, I'll be interested in mortality, I'll be interested into revascularizations, but I will also be interested into whether I can play with my grandchildren, whether if I will still work, whether my job will be affected, whether I will be able to spend time with my wife if she hasn't divorced from me before, but that has nothing to do with angina. So the truth is that 35% of the patients that have angina report that this symptoms has a significant impact on their quality of life. And quality of life is a little bit more evanescent. We don't measure it. Actually, we hardly measure it. We don't read it in the papers that we read. And this is what Ranil already said. But this is a debilitating condition. This affects the quality of life of the patient. And the patient see it as an endpoint to have a good quality of life. And I come back to that in the last slide. So we have patients with severe angina. We have patients that are being treated with standard medications. We have patients that are being revascularized with standard methods. And then there are patients that have ischemia. And I actually like to present this slide in the reverse animation because patients and we don't understand really fully what the relationship between ischemia and symptoms is. It is very complicated. Angina and ischemia are complicated phenomena, and our understanding is incomplete. But still, we need to address the quality of life of those patients, and we need to address it in an individualized way with a treatment that specifically treats the patient and not just follows an algorithm that is the same for every single person. So what are the key outcomes that may define the success of my cardiologist in 15 years? Of course, I want to have something that is feasible. I want to have something that is safe for me as a patient. I want to have something that is efficacious, that allows me to play with my grandchildren or spend time with my wife. Then I want to have this effect to be durable. I want to have several years of good quality of life. And then, of course, looking back at myself 15 years before, it would be nice to know how it works. And it would be interesting from the academic perspective as well. I hope that in 15 years I will be still able to be interested in something. So is implantation of a sinus reducer easy and feasible? And the answer is absolutely yes. There is more than 1,000 cases having been reported and published, and the success rate is above 90% in all studies. There are more complicated cases, there are less complicated cases, there are cases that end up in a half an hour or 20 minutes, there are cases that last several hours, but this is true for every single procedure that we are involved into. The final success is the same in all publications, above 90 to 95%. Is it safe? What are the complications? This was one of the questions to the previous speaker. The rate of complications is very similar to that of whichever safe stent implantation that we are used to do, and we do thousands or millions per year worldwide. All the studies published a rate of complication in the range of the very, very low single-digit percentages. Of course, the smaller the number, you see an 8% there, the smaller the number of the patients enrolled in the study, the larger the weight of every complication. So this 8% are down there are two embolisms in a study that recruited 24 patients that have been treated. And still, embolism, I don't remember if it was mentioned before as one of the complications, is not a real complication. So the size, the volume of the reducer is so small that at the end you may as well leave it in the pulmonary circulation, nothing happens, doesn't cause a thrombosis, doesn't cause a lung embolism, doesn't cause a reduction in flow in the lungs. The one complication that is that may be feared is the one to the very right, periprocedural stroke, and that has nothing to do with the implantation of the device. It has to do with the puncture wrongly of the carotid artery instead of the jugular vein. So it has nothing to do with the procedure. It may happen in every single patient that we instrument in an intensive care unit, and we do it several times per day independently of the implantation of a reducer. Does the device work? And here I will present some data. This is a device that has 2 sham-controlled studies, and this is a unique case in the whole cardiology, essentially. The sham-controlled studies were run into patients that really had symptoms. They were young, 67 years of age for Cosira, the first study. They had been treated with intensive therapies, CABG, previous PCIs in 3/4 of the patients, no revascularization more possible. They had been very symptomatic for several years in many cases, so 100% of them with CCS class 3 or 4 angina. And despite maximal therapy, they had refractory symptoms despite the optimal medical therapy. So those are the results, the top results. And as I said at the beginning, it is hard to quantify quality of life. It is hard to quantify how much a patient can play with his grandchildren. And the best way that we have is Canadian Cardiovascular Society class. So this is the control and reducer group at baseline. And this is the control and reducer group after 6 months. So as you see, the light colors are significantly more frequent in the reducer group. 71% of the patients in the reducer group improved by at least 1 CCS class as compared to 42 in the control, a significant difference. And 35% of the patients improved by 2 CCS classes as compared to 15% in the control group. I repeat, this was a sham control trial. Neither the investigators nor the patients knew which group they were adjudicated to. These results have been confirmed by several studies and meta-analysis. The chance that a patient improves by at least 2 CCS classes, also in registries, large studies, is about 40%. And this is way more than what OMT does. It is also more than what a stent does. So I'm not really worried about non-responders. It is interesting from the academic perspective that this is more than what stents do. So if you don't worry about non-responders when you implant a stent in the mid-LAD, you shouldn't be worried about non-responders with a reducer. The Orbita Cosmic has been named already. It was the second placebo-controlled trial. And here the authors made an effort at quantifying quality of life and angina with this Orbita app that where the patients give in daily what symptoms, what degree of symptoms they have. Now I can go straight through it. Same type of patients with severe disease, young, and willing to be treated and willing to have a good quality of life. And the dark red is the amount of angina episodes that they reported. As you see, the dark red is abundant in the placebo group, sham-controlled group, and less frequent in the coronary sinus reducer group. So even here, an odds ratio of 1.4, that means a 40% chance to have an improvement in symptoms, CCS2, which leads from the couch to exercising, basically, in the quality of life. So the mode of action has been discussed already. There is a rationale for those effects. It's not just observed phenomena, even though very formally observed phenomena. There is a reason why they occur. And there's also a reason, as James showed, why those effects are maximal upon endothelialization, so about 2 months after the implantation, and why they persist over at least 3 years after the implantation and stay constant upon 3 years after the implantation. 5 years data are still being collected. So the data is consistent. There are nuanced differences. There are some differences across different trial designs and patient populations, but it is clear that procedural success is high, that the change in CCS class is extremely high, 40% at 2 CCS classes. That means from not being able to raise up from the couch to being able to do exercise or play with kids. And the mode of action is confirmed. Now I want to go to the last slide, which is patient story. When I was asked to provide a patient story, I was a little bit wary. I was a little bit indecisive. I dislike making advertising, to be very sincere. I like presenting data. I dislike even more my patients to make advertising and exposing them to the risk of making advertisements. Now, this patient that I'm presenting now is a patient that we treated with the sinus reducer. She came from far away from my institution. She came back at 6 months for the routine control. I didn't see her. She came to the clinic. But the day after, she called me and she said, I wanted to thank you. I didn't see you yesterday. I wanted to thank you personally because my life has changed. So I thought this might be the right person to present. So there is a video. I cut away all the parts where I'm in it, so it's okay. And it's 2 minutes, which I hope you will enjoy. It's in German with subtitles.
Mein Name ist Gundel Grohmann, ich bin 78 Jahre alt und hatte das Glück, dass ich mit 57,5 in den Vorruhestand gehen konnte. Und das habe ich auch genutzt, da ich mit 49 Jahren mit dem Kammerflimmern beim Kardiologen umgefallen bin. Ich habe seit meiner Geburt Asthma und 2001 kriegte ich dann den ersten Stent. Und so ging das dann weiter. Insgesamt habe ich mal nachgezählt, bis jetzt 18 Herzkatheter gehabt, bis ich dann 2024, im Mai 24, dann nicht bloß einen Stent gekriegt habe, sondern einen Sinus Reducer. Die Stents haben mir immer weitergeholfen und dann war wieder der Moment da, dass ich nicht mehr so richtig gehen konnte, dass ich, wenn ich den kleinen Weg hier runtergegangen bin, die 100 Meter, bin ich einmal stehen geblieben zu einer Freundin, die auch nicht weit weg im Dorf wohnt, müsste ich 5-mal stehen bleiben. Und dann war ich wieder beim Kardiologen und der sagte mir, sagt er, ich weiß jetzt auch nicht, aber in meiner Fachzeitung gibt es einen Artikel über ein neues Verfahren von Professor Gori. Ich hatte keine Beschwerden danach. Ich merkte, als ich aufgestanden bin, am nächsten Morgen hat mein Mann mich um 10 Uhr abgeholt und dann merkte ich schon, wie das Gehen auch leichter wurde. Und während er den Reducer gesetzt hat, wie die Menschen da miteinander umgegangen sind, wie er mit seinem Team umgegangen ist und das Team mit ihm, also für mich war das schon toll. Ich bin froh, dass ich das gemacht habe und ich denke, es hilft mir immer noch. Ja, und hier zu Hause habe ich das sofort gemerkt. Es war also schon eine Erleichterung, wieder laufen zu können, ohne alle 5 Minuten stehen zu bleiben. Merkte auch, dass die Kraft immer ein bisschen mehr wurde. Und dafür steht dann auch mein Lebensring, den ich immer umhabe, den ich zu nichts ablege. Weil dieser Ring, den hat mir mein Mann nach der Herz-OP geschenkt. Und das ist, ich denke mal, solange das alles heil ist, dann bleibe ich auch heil.